In 1977, a middle-aged man named Igor Pulskiv arrived at the airport with his dog Palma in a basket. Palma is a female dog preparing to take a flight with her master. Igor and Palma board the airplane after having his passport examined. As he prepares to board the plane, the flight attendant inquires about the dog's medical records. Igor attempts to get it by digging in his pockets, but is unsuccessful. He begs the air hostess to let him on the aircraft since it is crucial, because he needs to report to his dream job the next day. After hearing his story, the flight hostess suggests he go to the airport doctor and get the paperwork certified immediately. Afterwards, Igor goes to the doctor to have Palma tested for infections. Palma has an infection inside her ears, so the doctor checks her carefully and refuses to give him the permission certificate. Igor, hot and perplexed, returns to the airport terminal. He meets with Nina, the flight attendant, and tells her everything. He claims that Palma has no one to look after her and that he is the sole caregiver for her. Nina decides to allow Palma inside after witnessing Igor's eyes well up with tears. However, the airport's manager comes and refuses to let the dog through without the necessary paperwork. After a while, Igor throws her beloved ball away, and Palma chases behind it. Igor rushes into the plane while she is busy. Palma returns and finds Igor boarding the jet. She tosses the ball on the ground and sprints towards him. Everyone on board the plane observes her pursuing them, but Igor ignores her. Palma stops the plane on the runway, causing the pilots to turn off the engine for a few seconds. The airport guards subsequently get the complaint about the dog and start to apprehend her. Palma flees and finds Tikhonov, a caretaker, at the hangar. A little child called Kolya is peering out the window of a flying airliner. One of the passengers is Ivan Lisko, a high-ranking minister terrified of takeoffs and landings. Kolya's father, Vyacheslav Lazarev, is piloting the plane and is concerned about his son. Tikhonov gets fond of Palma and feeds her. Inside the plane, Lisko becomes perplexed after an overshoot and feels humiliated in front of the foreign representatives on board. The plane successfully lands, and Lisko promptly condemns the airport manager for his actions. Palma searches through each person exiting the plane for Igor. The airport manager becomes enraged with the dog and demands that she be kicked out of the airport as quickly as possible. Palma is ultimately apprehended and locked inside the bus by the security team. Kolya gets off the plane and overhears the cops discussing killing the dog. He feels sorry for the helpless dog and decides to save it. The furious security officer is ready to strike the tiny kid when Lazarev enters and informs them that he is his son. Later, the airport manager begins criticizing pilot Lazarev for his inability to land correctly and his son for allowing the dog to go free. The pilot says he is always anxious for his son, which may have hindered his judgment capacity. After listening to Lazarev, the manager attempts to soothe him by informing him that he will have his international license in a month. Kolya arrives at a motel with his father, Lazarev. He is dissatisfied with his father and plans to flee at night. He arrives at the airport and seeks to purchase a ticket back to his hometown. The staff refuses to issue him a ticket and requests that the security officer inquire about the child's parents. Kolya spots a family and pretends to be one of them to board the plane. The flight hostess discovers his behavior and alerts the security officer, but Kolya flees before he can be apprehended. The following day, Lazarev discovers his kid is gone and becomes concerned. As he prepares to make a police report, he receives a call from Tikhonov, who assures him that his son is safe. Lazarev arrives at the airport and discovers his son sleeping with Palma. He tries to return his son home violently, but Palma intervenes and separates them. Nina, the air hostess, Tikhonov's daughter, appears and condemns Tikhonov for drinking coffee, which harms his health. Meanwhile, Palma approaches another landing plane, and this time, she sees a man who resembles Igor. She pursues him to the terminal, but is apprehended by security officers along the way. The security personnel are after her and preparing to catch her with a net. Kolya distracts the soldiers just in time, allowing Palma to flee. The port faces significant property destruction as a result of Palma's operation. Finally, Nina passes the letter Kolya had written for Igor to Lazarev. In the letter, he discovers Kolya pleading with Igor to return his devoted friend Palma. After reading the letter, Lazarev becomes emotional. Meanwhile, he observes Kolya leaving his room late at night. Lazarev believes he will rescue Palma from jail and resolves to assist his son. They both arrive at the dog shelter and, to their surprise, Nina is already there. They learn that Palma has escaped from jail. They get to the airport, and Kolya stands alongside the just-arrived jet, looking for Palma. Later, he watches her running towards the plane to gaze at the passengers departing. The next day, Lazarev contacts a news reporter who photographs Palma and publishes her tale on the first page of the newspaper. At that very time, the manager receives a call from the minister who wants to utilize Palma's narrative to gain public attention. He commends Lazarev's efforts and grants him an international license. Palma becomes an attraction for those coming to the airport after the announcement. A year goes by, and she still hasn't located Igor. She feels sorry for the dog since the minister takes advantage of her circumstances. Palma stops eating anything, and after an examination, the doctor says that she has depression and will only be able to overcome it if she meets Igor. Kolya finds Palma in the rain with her sorrowful look one night while it is vigorously pouring. He steps out and attempts to drag Palma along with him, but she refuses. He then removes his jacket and drapes it over her to keep her warm. They both spend the night in the rain together. Palma is more energetic and cheerful the next morning than the previous night. Kolya is overjoyed to see her playing and invites her to his house. At home, Lazarev receives a call from the department informing him that Igor has arrived to pick up Palma. Kolya refuses to send Palma with Igor since he has become connected to the dog. But Lazarev convinces him that she is someone else's property and that if he genuinely loves her, he should be able to let her go. Kolya agrees, and when they get out of the car, they observe that the minister has summoned several news teams to cover Igor's homecoming to gain sympathy for himself. Igor notices Palma and rushes towards her, eventually reconciling with the dog. Palma approaches him, but she appears uninterested in meeting him. Kolya returns with a sorrowful face and a troubled heart, handing Igor the collar belt of Palma. Lazarev attempts to speak with Igor and urges that he leave Palma, offering him a reasonable sum of money. Igor explains here that he does not want to return to Palma, but is forced to do so by the minister. The minister has threatened to sack him if he does not return to Palma. Igor is seen carrying Palma away in the following scenario. Palma protests and attempts to flee, but she is apprehended by security personnel, who compel her to board the plane. Meanwhile, the pilot of the same jet, Lazarev, refuses to fly the plane at the last minute. The airport manager threatens Lazarev with losing his pilot license due to his actions. Lazarev does not listen to her and opts out of the flight. The manager is forced to appoint another pilot to fly the jet. Meanwhile, one of the air hostesses approaches Igor and requests Palma's medical report to allow her to board the plane. Igor does not appear to have any medical records. The minister becomes enraged with the manager and orders her to allow the airplane to take off quickly. The manager responds that the rules must be obeyed. She also states she cannot allow Palma to fly aboard the plane without the medical report. Igor comprehends everything and frees Palma. He admits to the minister that he may have misidentified the dog. Palma runs out of the plane towards Kolya, who waits for her outside. They embrace and appear overjoyed to be reunited.